Okay, so here is the back piece so far. Now I have this little flap because that's where I'm going to attach the neck piece collar. I wanted to redo it because on the actual Crossbones armor, it looks like it has a little kind of clip on both ends. And I believe it either attaches to the inside of the shoulder part of the vest, or it has some type of strap. So I'm going to look at that closer to see if it actually links together or if it actually stays to the inside of this, so that when you put it on, basically it kind of just sits on the inside there and keeps closed. So I'll have to see how that goes. But this is it so far. Now, if you're wondering why there's strips of foam here, it's because when I add these pieces, and I just sprayed these, so I'm not going to handle it too much, but basically it's what goes over the front edges here, okay, and it kind of sits, let me see if this one's dry enough I can touch it a little bit. So it sits on the inside here. Let me see if you can see that. So, you know, you can kind of see that it has edges there, and I want the foam available for the back, so when I actually glue it, it kind of sticks to it a little better than on the nylon, Cordura style nylon. So that's kind of the idea there, and of course I have to detail it, add the little tacks to it. But I have both of those done. Oh, and if you're wondering, when it comes to, basically I'll show you, I put it together and then I kind of did it, but basically if you look at it, I've added these pieces where it's overlaid, and then those two lines right there, I just used the X-Acto knife and I just cut two little slits in it, and then you heat it with the heat gun and it creates a recessed portion of it. So that'll give it more detailing for you. And then as far as the side pieces, it doesn't have to be perfect, but I just kind of created there. Let's see if you can see that there. I just sprayed these two, but this is where those green straps are going to go that hold all like the ammo and the pouches and all that stuff. So I'm going to have to cover most of it, but I still wanted the back surface area to be black, kind of a satin. Basically, I took a semi-gloss black paint and then I sprayed over it with a matte clear protective coat, so it'll kind of look more satin than anything else if you really look at it once it dries. So both of those are actually going here, and I pulled the straps back just so that I could spray paint it, you know. But yeah, so they're going to go here, and then it's going to have the clips that lock in here. And then as far as this, I am making the chest piece, okay, which goes here. And I kept the straps one piece. Okay, so here's the chest piece. And when I did my first Crossbones armor, basically this was kind of in the like an addition piece, and it ended up tearing off and I had to reglue it and reinforce it more and stuff. But this time I'm cutting it out of one piece for my 2.0 Crossbones armor. Basically that's going to go there, and these are going to tuck under these pads. So it's going to kind of look like that, if you can see that. Alright, and then yeah, I created this piece here, if you're looking. I'll kind of come off to the side. This is all cut here. Okay, and it doesn't have to be perfect because it's going to get overlaid. So I cut these, I dremeled it so it kind of creates an angle there. I measured it so I could place it where I wanted it, how tall I wanted it. I left this open because this is where it's going to have a strap with 3 little ammo pouches and a little bracket on each end. So I wanted some surface area to glue it to so it stays pretty well on there. So when I add the nylon strap, I can glue some of it there and then just clip on the pouches. Okay. But okay, now to add the overlay of the chest plate onto this, and then of course I'll paint it and detail it and all that. So there we go. We want to make sure that it's overlaid so when we cut it, it'll be fine. Bottom's not such a big deal. So I just want to make sure I have enough. And of course, it's somewhat centered. So basically we're going to create that ridge in here. And another thing I want to do is make sure that I'm kind of bending it, because it actually positions itself in a curved motion kind of towards the thing. So putting this on something more hard and then making sure that you're kind of adjusting it that way might be better for you. But again, I'm just going to kind of work on creating that shape, because again, it does curve a little bit. So I want to kind of work with the curve as much as possible. And I'll do this when I hit more of a flat surface. I'll kind of show you even better. But again, just do what you can to create that curve, because you do want to create the illusion of the curve. So if you notice, I am applying pressure, and then when I get to the top part and all that, I'm going to trim off the excess so that I can get it to look the way I want it to look. And again, you don't want any bubbles or anything, so you want to kind of work it center outward, and again create that angled look. And you can use the heat gun to create that angle to it like this. I mean, of course, by just bending it like this, you're going to get more angle to it, and then you're going to finish off basically. So that's the idea right here. I'm going to just keep pressing it until I get the indentations the way I want it, and then of course I'll spray it. So now I'm working on the side pieces with the straps, and I'm going to kind of show you an easy, kind of fun way to create the spacing and make sure that it's pretty on the spot. So I basically started with, if you want to see this here, there. So I started with about 1 centimeter is what I wanted for spacing here. And so I started the glue on just the end so you can kind of see where I am with it right now. But I also, this is taken from my Crossbones, the first build that I ever made like 2 years ago. So I had these lines where it lined up, and I would put the super glue on the back side of that and then glue it on. But I never had a spacer, and so it kind of came out a little wonky looking. So this time I'm reusing the straps because they're still great. I don't like the pen marks, so if you want to take that off, I don't know if you can see that, you can use acetone and kind of rub it off, and that kind of helps it come off a little easier. And then basically I'm using a straw, and you can use a pen or whatever you want to do, but I'm using a straw as the spacer so that when I go ahead and I'm adding hot glue to this. I'll add a circle of hot glue there, and then I'll press it down and hold it and make sure it's about a centimeter up from the bottom of the thing, and that way it stays pretty stuck to the same sized loop. Does that make sense? So I'll show you kind of a finished one. I already did one already. So for the most part it looks pretty consistent. You know, of course it'll buckle in certain spots and stuff, but for the most part, other than that, it stays pretty well done. So And if you notice, I added a strap to the inside of this one. So the strap that I created was a little smaller, and I didn't quite like that, and I found this fatter buckle that's going to go on the back of the Crossbones armor. So what I did is I just cut that little buckle, and I just hot glued it to the bigger buckle and reinforced it. So it looks like it's still coming from the very center of this vest as opposed to underneath it. Yeah, it'd be simpler to just glue basically the buckle to this, you know, and then just kind of have it from underneath. But I wanted it to look like this is actually being held over the vest with the buckle, because that's kind of how it looks like in the movie. So that's basically what it's going to look like there. And I'm going to glue this piece on to the side flap for reinforcement. And that's basically what that's going to look like there. So be aware that when you are doing a test fitting, when you have it on, okay, you need to figure out where this is going to slide over your head, because the chest piece fits right on this spot. So you need to have something that's going to just barely fit over the head, but you want almost perfect spacing around the neck. So it's going to be angled out just slightly like this when I have it. And if you noticed, I actually cut into the secondary piece here, because that's where my chest plate is going to fit. I can show you that real quick, but first let's kind of go back to where we were talking about, is this one piece. Because you have to have the chest piece, let me grab this here. So basically the chest piece is going to fit into it like this. Okay, you're going to actually have it fit in. Now, when that happens, you need this below that piece, so it needs to be fitting just right, because if it's too far under, then now you're going to have a problem with it. You want it to fit right below that. And actually this flap, I'm putting a strap on here so that it tucks underneath. And that's basically the idea that you want out of that. So you have to check your spacing on some of this before you finalize it, so that you know if it's going to fit or not. And that's kind of the big thing. You definitely want to make sure that this will fit over your head, or you're going to have to adjust stuff, and it's just going to be a pain in the butt afterwards. So anyway, I am going to continue on with gluing these in. I also did do a new neck piece. If you look at this, I added that flap so that when I add the neck piece, okay, it's going to go over there and around the sides, okay, and that's going to fit around the neck. Now, the neck piece, I'll show you a more detailed version of this afterwards, but you have to create your little recesses here, and then you're going to add the nylon over it, and then that's going to fit. And I noticed it also has this little clip here, like a bracket. Then it almost has an extra smaller piece that sticks out. And so I'll kind of show you that as I build this. But I'm going to go back to the rib plating, and then we'll kind of move on from there. Thanks, guys.